Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's not really sure how time works. I could have swore that St. Vincent album I like so much came out like last year. It was like 3 years ago. Anyways, I'm not going to be talking about Daddy's Home. I'm going to be talking about All Born Screaming. And it's nice because, mostly thanks to Taylor Swift, my audience has become a little bit better weighted. It used to be like 80% male, 20% female. We're not at that 50-50 point, but that's what I hope to get to. But in a way, it makes sense that I'm not at that place, because I really spent so much of my life unknowingly being a ridiculously misogynist music consumer. I didn't know. It wasn't on purpose, you know? I wasn't like, I don't like music made by women, but it was like Bjork and maybe PJ Harvey, and like that was it. And that was all that I would allow into my ears. And since I started this channel in 2018, you know, when I was in my mid-20s, I had my mid-20s music death. I decided all new music is crap. I missed the first, 7 St. Vincent albums. And then Daddy's Home was my first introduction. In that time, since when I started this channel in 2018, like half of the great music that's made these days is made by women. And that's awesome, you know? And it's really thanks to progress in our society, allowing space, allowing support, all those things, a whole bunch of other reasons. But it's really nice because we're in this place now where now that I've woken up to new music, I'm also waking up to 51% of the world's population and their artistic output. So that's a weird kind of intro for this album, but I think it's important. Because I've been thinking a lot about this. Ever since the song Clairvaux by Taylor Swift last week, I looked up just some stuff from Stevie Nicks in 1975, and I found this interview. And I'm not going to play it again. You should check out my review of Tortured Poets Department if you haven't seen it. And basically the interviewer's like trying to get at like, so how do the men around you help you make music? And it's this really kind of like subtly, insidiously patronizing interview where she's explaining that, you know, she's not a virtuoso and so they help her with that. But really the whole thing has this kind of feel to it that just makes me a little bit icky. And when I review all these great female artists, very often, not always, but very often, I acknowledge and talk about their co-producers. And in a way, I'm trying desperately hard to avoid that trap of just saying, here's a great female artist and her male producer. But that's just a sort of reality of what we're talking about. Of course, this is not a monolith. English Teacher, as an example, was all produced by Marta Solonghi, who also produced Black Midi, so she's a great producer out there. But in general, that's maybe one area of the music industry where the doors have not been quite as open, or we are not at the point of equality. And of course, this doesn't only apply to women. It's not like Perfume Genius doesn't need his producer either. But when I just sort of go down the list of a lot of these great female acts, you know, Charlie XCX has A.G. Cook, and Billie Eilish has Phineas, and Olivia Rodrigo has Dan Nigro, and Taylor Swift has Aaron Dessner or Jack Antonoff, and then Clairo has Jack Antonoff, and Lorde has Jack Antonoff, and Lana Del Rey has Jack Antonoff, and St. Vincent on her last album has Jack Antonoff. So the fact that this album is self-produced is, I'm not saying it's like some kind of huge watershed thing, because it's not like it's the first album, not the first great piece of music made by a female genius songwriter, not produced by Jack Antonoff. It's not the first one, but I like secretly suspect if I go back and like look in the liner notes of Joni Mitchell, there's going to be like a negative 10-year-old Jack Antonoff producing everything. Like he's just everywhere. And good, right? He's a great force. I'm not trying to say anything bad about him. I actually like his production on the Tortured Poets Department. Check out that review. But what this shows is that this shows that it is a facilitator. Okay? That is what a producer is. A producer is a facilitator. A producer is not the thing behind the thing, is not the power behind the throne, so to speak. So that last album, Daddy's Home, which I had the poster framed, I like it that much. You know, it's a great album, and it has this amazing 70s feel, and it feels like homage to Joni Mitchell and also to a whole bunch of 70s soul singers and folk and all that. It's this wonderfully crafted, basically concept album. And then there's this, All Born Screaming, which is not. Like, what is this album? It's self-produced, but what is she producing? Is this like one idea? Sort of. It's sort of. Okay, if I wanted to, I could come on here and snarkily explain how it's a 90s pastiche. But I don't think it really is, because the way that it's produced, it never feels like it's trying to give you the member berries and make you go, ha, ha, It's really more like, and I guess this is a lot what she did with Antonoff on Daddy's Home, using this kind of space, this atmosphere, almost like this costume, to release great music, to write great music with great lyrics. It's interesting because I'll talk about it soon, but I've been watching interviews with her, and she describes the St. Vincent character, Annie Clark is her real name, she describes that basically as a costume. So it makes sense that St. Vincent would also be wearing costumes. And if that was cool 70s taxi driver core 70s weirdness, then this is sort of 90s to late 90s post-industrial dance stuff. But that's just limiting. That's just too limiting. Because really, it's just great music. And the thing that I think about when I listen to this music, and I try to synthesize it and describe it to you, is that it's so full. It is just ridiculously full. There's a song called Big Time Nothing, but I don't know what I'm going to title this video. I'm thinking Big Time Everything, because there's so much put into every single song. And the thing about it is that if you see an artist is self-producing, you got to be like, ooh, danger zone, okay? It's a real danger zone, because that can be a sign of megalomania. That can be a sign of being a control freak, right? That's an easy thing to imagine. But that's not the case here. She has so much taste as a producer that it's like, why does she ever use a producer? I mean, just how each song does this trick. And I'll try to say it every time, but I won't remember every time. So you just pretend you have a little button, a little Professor Sky button, where he pops up. This song is a great example of maximal and minimal at the same time. Okay, because she's able to make things feel full and sparse, and she knows when to do it and when to put it in. And I don't, it's a real skill. And I understand that she produced that Sleater-Kinney album from a couple of years ago. My first girlfriend went to Smith, and Sleater-Kinney was so big back then that they were just ubiquitous in my life, so I never actually listened to them, but I'm now realizing I was an idiot. I'm sure their music was great, but it was just a weird byproduct of spending too much time at Smith, which is an all-girls college in Western Massachusetts. The best college I've ever seen. I really wished I could have gone there. But what we have is someone who is just so capable. And looking a little bit more into her biography, she went to Berkeley. So I grew up in Boston and Berkeley School of Music. If you tell me there's an artist who goes to Berkeley School of Music and they're making music, much like me hearing, it's a popular artist who's self-producing, that's a red flag. Oh, they went to Berkeley School of Music, that's a red flag. It's a red flag for me because I'm kind of a snob. I'm kind of I don't know if it's a purist, or I spent too much time listening to Neil Young and Hank Williams. Hank Williams, who famously fired one of his guitar players for being too good, Like the idea of precision and performance and virtuosity, I don't always want that in my rock and roll. And that's the thing that she doesn't do. She somehow has that ability, press the button, maximalist, minimalist, to the point where she has multiple guitar solos on this album. And I think she might be my favorite guitarist working right now. I'm trying to go through in my head who are the guitarists that I'm thinking about. I mean, I like a lot of the guitarists and a lot of those British bands, Black Country New Road, all that stuff. Yeah, they're great. But just as far as like somebody who knows how to make guitar solos that are memorable and thoughtful and write guitar lines that are like technically proficient but not noodly doodly, it's just wonderful. So these just right there, 10 minutes of describing why this album is so great. Another reason, and I hate to say it, but there's no sitar. Listen, it's very cool that she can play sitar. But very rarely is sitar used well in rock and roll. And I personally think that it was used to its detriment on Daddy's Home. It's interesting that when she's in control of herself, she uses less sitar. Like, she's maybe more restrictive with herself on her self-produced albums. I don't know. What's the theme of the album? I can't tell. I mean, it seems that the theme is sort of like the world's messed up, and so am I, but it's okay. Okay, I did it. I found the theme. How about that, huh? I was just thinking, and that's it. The world's messed up, and so am I, but it's okay. The album cover is her on fire, and you know, maybe you can learn a lot more if you watch the Zane Lowe interview on Apple Music. I enjoy his interviews. He's a little obsequious, but he's a very good interviewer. He gets a lot out. And in that, she sort of describes this album as being very personal, but then she also goes on to say that she doesn't care what an artist is going through when they make music. Vinny, I'm right there with you, okay? Just 100%. I don't care. That's part of the reason the Torture Poets Department was so difficult for me, is because you couldn't avoid the biography. Who cares about what she's going through? She also sort of paraphrases Paul Simon. So Paul Simon will often talk about how music belongs to the listeners. So if you mishear a Paul Simon lyric, the lyric that you heard is the correct lyric, not the lyric that he wrote, which is pretty rad. And I think that's really what she's saying as well. She apparently built her own studio. That's pretty clear. What she said she wanted to do, okay, just besides everything. So, you know, I'm an academic and I'm an intellectual and all that stuff. And I've grown up around a lot of intellectual and smart people, and I've been around them. And very often they're very good critics, but very rarely do they make very great artists. You know, the kind of people who you want to go to a museum with are rarely the people you want to make art. Okay? That just happens to be the case, and I'm including myself in it, okay, with my own mediocre forays into music. More like 4 F's into music. But she very much has that feeling of the kind of person I would sort of know in this kind of world. So she talks about how Miles Davis says that the hardest thing is to sound like yourself, and she said that's what she was going for, which is what makes this so great, because this album is wonderful, Daddy's Home is wonderful, but the affect of the 70s feeling is so great that it does keep you at a distance, and this one doesn't have that feeling. And so this whole title and the cover, and then she even says here that this is a mantra that she wants you to have, that we're all born screaming, and that joy and pain are all part of the same thing. Is that complicated? Is that the most original, sophisticated concept you've ever heard? Joy and suffering are all part of life? No. Hell, there's one of the songs on the Taylor Swift album says the exact same thing about, like, I wouldn't have it any other way. Something, I don't remember what song it is. You can tell me in the comments. But she just says it so well with such great music, and it's a thing that we need to remember, okay? Like, if you're a parent of a teenager like I am, you know, teenagers often have ups and often have downs, and that's one of the most important things to remind them. And I do this. You know, if my teenager is feeling very down, I tell them, well, it's very understandable, and I'm sorry that you feel that way, but also remember that this is temporary. And then sometimes if my teenager's like super psyched, I say, oh, this is good, but also remember, sometimes you feel very down. Like, I try to do that, you know? I do take issue, though. All born screaming. This is a very personal story, but I'm going to tell you. Okay, so I have a baby and 2 teenagers, and I won't say which one, but during the birth of one of them, it was a very chaotic thing. Everyone's fine. Mother's healthy, baby's healthy, all that stuff. But sometimes, in the process of birth, a baby will hold its breath. Or a baby will have fluid in its lungs that the doctors have to get out. So 30 of the worst seconds of my entire life. Maybe it was a minute, maybe it was 5 minutes. I don't know. It could have been 3 hours, it could have been 10 seconds. But when one of my babies was born, it was not screaming. It was dead silent. And I was trying to support my wife. I was holding hands. I was trying to play cool. Everything seemed fine. All right, we're all good. Yeah. You'll see it soon. And the whole time, I'm just having the worst possible feelings. Like the worst, most torturous feelings. Like legitimately believing that I had a baby that didn't make it. And then 5 hours, 30 seconds, however long later it was, wah, baby starts crying and I'm happy. The only reason I tell that is that we're all born screaming is kind of a funny cliche that people, it's not like St. Vincent's the first person to ever make this point, right? It's been made before. But there's something profound about the fact that sometimes we don't even scream when we're born. And that's worse. You know, if you're a parent, screaming is better than silence. And this is true. If you have a kid and they're quiet and they're not talking to you, that's way worse than if they're complaining and saying how they're feeling. Anyways, she also said in the interview, she kind of goes into how she was inspired by going to the Prado in Madrid and seeing Goya and all that stuff. Again, the sort of simpatico I feel here. I've never been to the Prado, but that's the kind of thing that I would think about. And also, in addition, she let out for basically no reason that In Rainbows is her favorite Radiohead album. We share that. And then there's this important element. And when we're talking about this album and its soundscape, now she produced the whole thing, right? But she's not quite full Prince. I do hear Prince a lot on this album, but she's not quite full Prince. She's not alone in the studio, okay? She's working, and primarily working with someone named Justin Meldal Johnson, who I didn't really know, but then I looked up his credits and everything snapped into focus. He worked with Nine Inch Nails, and he also worked on the one good Beck album, Midnight Vultures. I'm sorry, I don't have my copy. I lost my copy in the divorce. Now, she had a copy of it too, and I had a copy of it too. But when the divorce ended, I had no copies of Midnight Vultures, and she had two. Hey, maybe the reason that I don't like Beck is because of that whole mess. But we'll come back to it. Midnight Vultures is... It's weird because the amount that I have disliked Beck throughout my life is exactly in balance with how much I love Midnight Vultures. So that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense except for a weird personal bias. But that's what I feel this is the closest to. Now, Midnight Vultures is too Becky, it's too whatever, clap your hands and we're all turnips made out of fluorescent bulbs and all that kind of, there's not enough substance there, there's too much french fries and not enough shake in that album. But still, I would say in an audio sense, that's the ability that it has to be sort of a pastiche, but not really. So I'm going to get to the album. I'm going to give you an example song. Before I do, if you like what you hear, you like what this is going on here while I'm recording upstairs, my baby's downstairs. So I'm in the iTheodore studio upstairs. If you like what you hear, smash the like bucket. That's a little thing that looks like this. It's actually a bucket, and I want you to smash it. I want you to subscribe. If you want to join my Patreon, that's cool. I sometimes will ask my Patreons if they would like a shout out at the end of my videos. And Kat Elize, Andy Scudder, Zach, and Rat King Michael all asked for shout outs. But I'm doing it now, because why not? That was my advertisements. I don't do advertisements, I'm not a shill. I don't try to promote things, All right, so let's get to The Stamp, my example song. It's a good album when it hurts to solo out one song. It hurt me to try to take one song out of the context of the rest of it. It has a whole flow. It has a feeling when you're listening to it. You get to a certain point. You're like, oh, I know the next song that's coming. And I've only had this album for, Saturday? It came out on Friday. I've only been listening to it for 24 hours, but already it's like a member of the family here in my head. So if you click above Annie for the song So Many Planets, I think this has a lot of the great stuff of this album. Now, it starts with some imperial sounds almost like an opening sound, almost kind of a regal sound. And then it settles in to reggae. Okay. Now I want you to do something for me, okay? I want you to create a time machine. I want you to go back to 2017 before I started this channel. And I want you to tell me, hey, you know that weird Saint Vincent person that you've seen like posters of where she's like bending over or something and you don't know what she is and you think that she might be the same thing as Paramore, but you just don't know the difference because you're a weird sexist pig who hasn't really looked into music made by women? Anyways, when she is a 41-year-old white woman from Tulsa, she is going to release a reggae song and you're going to like it. You are going to like it. You, preposterous old man, are going to like this song and think it's the best song on a great album. A great album that's going to make you go, I should go back to that album where she's like bent over and it's all pink and weird and stuff. I bet that's a good album too. This song has no business being as good as it is. This is proof of not just her greatness as a musician, but this is an impossible task for a producer. Like seriously impossible. Making a reggae song that works. I just don't understand. In the Zane Lowe interview, she said that she's influenced by Lee Scratch Perry and the Specials and all that, and her goal was how to do it wrong. But what I think she did, and I know that she did that album with David Byrne, and that she's really a big fan of Talking Heads, is she's basically doing the thing that like almost only Talking Heads could do. There's a kind of curatorial passion where you're not being a culture vulture. You are taking a sort of deep, intellectualized love of a form of art and using it in a way which somehow is not exploitative or cheesy or stupid because it's just so well done. So, you know, you have this great low bass, but then this guitar is super far away, and then the drums are so good. They're excellent Lee Scratch Perry style drums. And this pre-chorus establishes like the chorus is going to come up and it's just going to be her singing with like just multiple layers. And then there's this little 3-note guitar, this little 3-note guitar, little leitmotif that pops up here and there. I guess it's not a leitmotif, it's just a motif that just pops up here and there and helps to act as like a little staple that connects two different parts of the song together. And later it'll be used to announce a jam, but if you're not paying attention, you don't notice it. But when you do pay attention, you go, this woman knows how to produce because this, now that right there, that's going to connect these two pieces. That's a staple. These are two pieces right there. And it goes through like that. And the second chorus goes into that instrumental bit with those little notes. And then here the best part of the album is this guitar solo. It's all over the place. It's like 4 different styles. It's awkward. It's jarring. It's playful. It's the best guitar solo I've heard this year. And yes, I've listened to the entire Pearl Jam album review coming soon. God bless Stone Gossard, I think or is he the bass player? Whoever it is for Pearl Jam, he's great. But this right here, this is what I want in a guitar solo. If you're going to be good at guitar, I want you to play so well that you're not trying to show me that you're good at guitar. I want you to write interesting things. I want you to make interesting things. It's just great. I don't know what the song's about. It seems that it's about sort of her life and a kind of sense of general disassociation, misfiring chemicals and scary ideas. Because, misfiring chemicals, that's like in your brain. This revolution isn't fun, ma. I'm out of fashion. I've got God on my heels. I'm dropping promises like H-bombs, but keep calm. I'm at the back of my head watching my life happen. I had to visit so many planets before I find my own. It's this general sense of kind of searching and trying to find, but really it's just about the music for me, and it's a beautiful song. And it's proof of concept. Maybe it's just too much for her to produce herself, because anyways, I don't edit my own writing, I got my wife edits for me, because editing is a whole different skill beyond writing. I would rather write a 10,000 page paper than edit a 5-page paper. That's just the way I am. So anyways, I'm going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. Opens up with Hell Is Near. Nice, almost like a Terminator 2. Dun 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 dun. Her voice is like a choir here. And she says the word beginning, and I like that because you know why? You know why? Because the album's beginning is why, and the album's gonna have a whole feel, almost kind of a Tom Yorkie melody. It's maybe a little bit. This might be on purpose. It's still a little Daddy's Home-ish, a little bit. Beautiful drum work again. These little kind of simple tricks with like doubling the hi-hat. Great guitar, ringing notes. Almost like there's this whole, that's what I'm saying. That thing where I'm going to keep popping up, maximal and minimal. There's this whole little groove that comes out of nowhere that sounds like a 12-string guitar. I don't know why it's there. At times, this song reminds me of Led Zeppelin, with the way it resolves and the way the lyrics go. And it just feels like she's almost just showing off. I was bare, wanted all under heaven allowed. I assume that's a reference to the movie All That Heaven Allows with Rock Hudson and Jane Wyman, I believe. Damn, hell of a movie. It's about like a old gardener who falls in love with like a rich housewife. Oh my God. 50s. It's great. It's amazing. And it was great just because this song kind of goes straight into the next. Oh, she also makes reference to something called Nowhere In, because apparently she made a documentary with Carrie Brownstone, Brownshaw, Broadstone. Wait, which is the one from Sex and the City, and which is the one from Portlandia and Slater-Kinney? Carrie, whatever it is. I'm going to say Brownsheet. Brownstone? Broadstone? Whatever it is. They made a documentary, a fake documentary, real documentary together, and it looks great. I need to see it. And also, apparently, St. Vincent also made a short horror film, which I also need to see. Apparently, she's a filmmaker. So I believe that she's probably very good at that. Please tell me in the comments if I should see both those movies, because I really want to. Next track is called Reckless. And, it's a good song because you want to sing it. You want to say reckless. It starts with these nice, like, simple piano notes. She's really sort of at her rawest. In the interview, she said it was her favorite song. Zane Lowe said it was his favorite song. I think probably because it has the most sort of emotional range. I watched you sleep until the angels picked you up, breathless. And then the way that she says the word smell of your hair on the curtains. And the way she says the word babe. I mentioned this before when I was talking about The Alchemist. So you probably didn't see this video, realistically. Hey, if you watch my Alchemist video and this, you are officially a Professor Sky Real One. Congratulations. Tell me in the comments. But I talked about how great impressionists will use one word to get into an impression. And I think if you tried to figure out how to do a good Nick Cave impersonation, you would just say babe. Like, you just try to say babe. Like, because the way he says babe is just, it's a very specific babe. And to me, it sounds like a babe. And I've read other reviews that compare it to PJ Harvey, but I don't think so. I think it sounds like Nick Cave. And I know there's a lot of overlap there. But then this whole like exhausted and fierce delivery builds up all this tension. This is great acoustic, sounds like stand-up bass, and gets super emotional. But it's emotional through the voice first. The voice first starts cracking and starts getting bigger. Your love is an anchor. And then there's this electronic explosion, almost industrial. Awesome electric freakout. It even almost sounds a little bit like Hans Zimmer. Blah, babe. Hans Zimmer and Nick Cave made an album together. I don't know. It's beautiful. It's just beautifully produced. That's what I'm saying. Like, the opening is so minimal and sweet, and then the end is so maximal and nutty. And she's able to tie it all together. I really like this album. Patreons, I'm going to buy this album. Unfortunately, my wife has had a migraine like most of the day, so I haven't been able to listen to this album. I wanted to play it like on blast and the whole day and the whole through the house by listening to little headphones. So I think I'm going to go to Record Archive after this video. I'm going to buy her the record and say, when you feel better, we get to listen to St. Vincent some more. Isn't that nice? Isn't that like a nice thing to do? And then I get to listen to it too. Okay, then I get to the next track called Broken Man. Very charismatic singing. Okay, all right. So I write in sedimentary layers. Okay, so I take notes every time I listen, and I add and I add and I add and I add. My first round of notes is often kind of simplistic and stupid. So this is what I said. Nick Cave singing over a 9 Inch Nails track with Prince doing backup vocals. Still good. I stick with it. I stick with that. Weirdly sexual-ish lyrics. Can't tell really if it's sexual or not. It just builds up with like more bass in the second half of the first verse and this great little like real drum set fill. I think this is Dave Grohl, so it's great. Means Dave Grohl has done something good since Nirvana broke up. First time for everything. Damn, I'm a hater. Am I hating on Beck and Dave Grohl? I have a lot of respect for Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl is like the American Damon Albarn. It's like, this is something that just doesn't click with me, but I respect the hell out of the guy. My friend Brad saw Dave Grohl in England once, and he said he was walking down the street, and he was listening to headphones, and he was just like, he's like exactly the guy that you think Dave Grohl is. Dave Grohl, second coolest guy in Nirvana. Cobain is the third. Just beautiful, like almost like a tick-tock sounds here. And then we get this more kind of Hans Zimmery, 9 Inch Nailsy, industrial blaring sounds. And this is where I dare you, I double dog dare you. This is my call out to my dear colleague in Connecticut who likes to complain about mixing. This is my question. Is this badly mixed? Or is this intentionally badly mixed to make it that this whole section is just so unsettling? It's just great. And then it gets smoothed on the next section. This great kind of percussion. And there's just great drums going on. Dave Grohl's a great drummer, it turns out. He just can't... What was it Drake said to Metro Boomin? Make some drums? Hey, Dave Grohl, make some drums, okay? We don't need another Foo Fighters album. Make some drums. Anyways, just what the hell do you think I am? It's like you've never seen a broken man. I don't quite get it, but I like the kind of gender swappy thing like we saw with Beyonce, like we saw with Taylor Swift. It's a real thing. Hey, I'm not the guy. I don't study. I am not a gender specialist, okay? I'm not. But if we take the 2024 musical, strong female musicians, there's a lot of stuff of singing from a man's position and being in a man's role. What does it mean? At this point, I was at the gym and I was just working out super hard and I was super happy watching Liverpool not play very well against West Ham. That's where I was. Next track is called Flea. It's a love song to the bassist for Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's really cool because it goes into like the Hendrix tattoo and just like the little gap in his teeth. And it's just a really, really, really sweet song. I get one joke. Per video. I spent it on that. Do I regret it? Yeah, it wasn't a good joke. Wasn't even unexpected. This is what I'm talking about, like the album having a flow. Like Broken Man into Flea. Like I've heard this album 6 times over the past 24 hours and already Broken Man goes into Flea in my head. Like, I don't know, like any other album that you love where the songs that are paired together and you know they come next. The voice just starts, I'm just a hungry little flea. And then we get sort of a kind of a Bjorky low synth bass. It just grows beautifully, more Prince-like harmony, simple, strong lyrics. I'm just a hungry little flea jumping on someone's warm body when you start to itch and scratch and scream. Once I'm in, you can't get rid of me. Awesome. And then there's almost, and I forgot my Flaming Lips CD, there's almost kind of a Flaming Lips style 90s jam on here with this great fuzzy bass. I guess Grohl's playing drums again. Give the guy props. And then the second verse. Okay, I'm going to be making a few points on this album that are going to make you go, what? But then you might go, oh, right? Why are you talking like that? The second verse, I think she's inspired by The Beat Goes On by Cher and later covered by Britney Spears on her debut album. The only cover on Britney Spears' debut album. Hit me big one more time. It's just seriously, listen to those back to back. You'll go, oh, yep, I hear it. I hear it. Nice little, very compressed interlude that sounds like a banjo, and then it gets uncompressed, and there's a great little keyboard-ish solo, great kind of Princey jam here, and then comes back to the chorus, these wailing guitars behind. It's been a great month for rock and roll. Next track is Big Time Nothing. Again, is this sort of like a reference to Big Time Sensuality? Because it's very kind of Bjorky. It reminds me of, right, of Human Behavior. Also, at a certain point, it's almost like, wait, am I thinking of a different song? Wait a minute. Yes, this is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. And then there's like an actual point where, and I would hold up a Nine Inch Nails CD. I lost all my Nine Inch Nails CDs in the divorce as well. I really like that one that came out in 2000. That album was super good. The rest of them I'm not super into. But it seems like there's an actual quote of the song Closer. But really what this song reminds me most of, and this might surprise you, but I haven't seen anyone else talk about this. So I am going to sing the lyrics to this song. Don't blink, don't wait, don't walk, you're late, don't fall from grace, behave, don't trip, sashay. Sashay. Don't talk, don't move, don't talk out of time, don't think, don't worry, everything's just fine. Just fine. I tricked you. The second one, that's Numb. Off of U2's best album, Europa. Hot Take City. Definitely their best album. I love this album. I don't particularly like U2, but I think this is one of the best albums of the entire 90s. It has that weird kind of faux rapping and repeating all these things you're not supposed to do. Don't move, don't talk out of time, don't think, don't worry, everything's just fine. Don't blink, don't wait, don't walk, you're late, don't fall from grace. Okay, sashay. Sashay. Great. And again, it sounds like I'm like making fun of it for being like this and being like that, but it all comes together and it all works. It just all comes together and works. And I swear to God, there's an orchestra hit in here. Gotta love it. Cool, like a funk guitar with like hammer-on licks. So many things. Percussion, kind of like a Strat guitar solo. Another great guitar solo. Again, maybe my favorite guitar solo. Hey, maybe it's the Talking Heads thing, because they're able to do that maximal minimal thing too. But then there's this chunky ending. I call it chunky because it's like little things happen in little moments. It's like kind of modular, and the percussion comes back and it's all like, and then the chorus comes back. Big Time Nothing. Beautiful, beautiful track. And then it leads beautifully to the next song. Stop saying beautiful, Sky. People are going to get crazy if you keep saying the word beautiful. Violent Times has these low horns, and this is what I'm talking about. If I heard this song and I didn't know who this was, my first question would not be, who's writing this? I'd say, hey, who's producing this? This is like a really cool thing here with these horns just coming through all the way with this great sustain. And then some almost like Radioheadish distorted drums coming in. And then listen to the bass sound, would you? Would you listen to it? What are you doing? You need to listen to just the sound of this bass drum. It's just so ratty. It's awesome. And then it becomes like a Barry White song. You know, she has this kind of breath out. So again, imagine Barry White as a white lady. Would the name be Mary Black? Is that fun? Hey, I used up my one joke on Flea, so it wasn't funny. I don't get two jokes. And she, like, is it's known, right? The Bowie thing is known, like her kind of Bowie-ness. It's like the coolest thing about like getting hip to music these days is how many artists have successfully inherited things from David Bowie. I mean, no one has replaced him. Perfume Genius has not replaced him. Of Montreal has not replaced him. St. Vincent hasn't replaced him. But they've all learned at this school of how to be just a great singer. It's awesome. Like, all the wasted nights chasing mortality, just the way she sings it. It's even better than the way I just did it. When the ashes of Pompeii, lovers discovered in an embrace for all eternity. Now, this is not Hiroshima Mon Amour. This is a copy of La Montagne Anglaise by Marguerite Duras. I believe that is 23-year-old cat vomit. I believe that is Krusty's cat vomit. So, I'll just do that. He was a beautiful cat, but... So, Marguerite Duras wrote the screenplay for the movie Hiroshima Mon Amour, directed by Alain Resnais from 1960. And if you've never seen it, it's a beautiful movie. It's one of those things where, hey, Sky, how do you become a smart dude? You watch Hiroshima Mon Amour. Just a beautiful, complex take on love and life and loss. I really think Hiroshima Mon Amour would go quite well with this album. A lot of these kind of themes of like loss and love and growth and temporality and eternal, all that kind of stuff. And part of the album, part of the movie, it opens up with this beautiful scene. It was in the screenplay. It's Duras' idea. Marguerite Duras is just one of the great authors of the 20th century. My favorite is La Montre Anglaise, but that's a super weird book. It takes a lot of effort to understand that one. Hiroshima Mon Amour. See that first. But has these like, all these like the glistening like arms and back of people having sex, right? The two main characters having sex. And it's like basically mixed in with images of the bodies of people who are in an embrace in Pompeii, because that's what happened in Pompeii. Like they were covered, and I'm pronouncing it in French, Pompeii, in Pompeii, because like that's true. Lovers were discovered in an embrace. And so it's mixed in with like Pompeii and Hiroshima and love and eternity. And I swear to God, if St. Vincent was not inspired by Hiroshima Mon Amour for the song Violent Times, I will eat a baseball hat, okay? I will eat a baseball hat. I will eat a Rochester Red Wings baseball hat, okay? Over the span of 40 years, but I will eat it. If she was not at least a little inspired by the movie Hiroshima Mon Amour. The ball's in your court, Vinny. Okay. Does she like being called Vinny? I think that's very funny. And then just so much great, like there's this little guitar in the right channel that's beautiful, and this like moaning, pleading guitars and this moaning woman. She's just an awesome moaner. It's not always sexual. It just has this feeling. It gets really clear at the end, and the drums are so well programmed on here. I don't know what she's doing with the drum programming, but it sounds better than most drum programming in most songs. Can you tell I like this album? Is this going to be like the album? Is this the thing where everyone's going to be like, this is the album of the year? Or are they going to do that annoying thing where they're like, actually, I thought it was quite derivative. Okay. Next track is called The Power's Out. And this is just 5 Years by David Bowie. Yeah, Poppy's making a video. That's the baby coming up to get a diaper change. I think it'll be charming if they heard that. Okay. Yeah. No worries. I'm pretty sure it's charming. Tell me in the comments if it's charming. So, I don't know how clear this is to you, but to me, this is very clearly in communication with the song 5 Years by David Bowie, the opening track of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. You might be wondering, why does my copy of Ziggy Stardust look so weird? Because I just listened to the album so much I lost everything else. That's the copy of the vinyl that my brother bought for my daughter. Now, that's not exactly the drum beat that's here. This one's more like boom. It's a little bit off. The drum pattern's a little bit off. But you're thinking, well, okay, maybe that's a coincidence, right? It's not like the opening lyrics are going to talk about about pushing through stuff. But that is pushing through the market square. And then in the first lyrics that she sings, she talks about pushing through, okay? And these cool guitar sounds, it's not just an imitation, right? There's great moaning in the back. And it's almost like a Civil War, that movie that just came out, which I haven't seen yet because I'm afraid to see it, but I think I have to see it because Jesse Plemons is my nightmare fuel, and if I don't see anything with him like every couple months, then my life is too easy. You know, it seemed like all about the power going out and people going crazy and about society. And then she says it was pouring like a movie. And it rained and the sun, and I felt like an actor. Seriously, just put them next to each other. Put these songs next to each other, and it's not... Okay, all these cases, all right? All these examples. This, The Beat Goes On, Numb by U2. Like, none of it's like aping. It's just like, I don't know. It's like finding the atmosphere and playing with it. It's great. A beautifully sparse song, and a lot of times at a certain point this doubled low guitar comes in. It's so gorgeous. It's kind of much like 5 Years, What a Surprise. It has sort of like a 50s feeling, you know, like in the chord structure. And then just these cool, like, it doesn't quite end and the guitar gets all high and whiny and it's beautiful. And then we get to The Sweetest Fruit. I swear to God, the sequencing on this album is so well done. Every song goes so nicely together. It all fits together on some kind of like deep level. Sweetest Fruit has this detuned, dirty synthesizer. It's like this light, fun house music. Like, I could imagine this song being... Hey, I don't know. Some artists watch my videos, but at a certain level of success, they don't. So she's too popular to watch my videos. That's fine. It only hurts me because she'll probably watch less interesting videos about her music. But that's okay. What am I going to do? You know, what am I going to do? But you got to make a Peter Gabriel style video about this. This is calling for that kind of playful video. This fun kind of light sound with this weird, almost video gamey feeling. Very kind of high, unclear voice. Is there a didgeridoo on this song? I want you to text YES to #double-sky and let me know. I think there's a didgeridoo in this song. Very kind of Talking Heads. The opening verse is about the singer Sophie. And, wow, man. Is it too soon? I don't know. It hurts. There's a couple people whose deaths, like, popular culture can't get over. Like, I think we've gotten over, like, Kurt Cobain and, like, James Dean even. You know what I mean? Like, you can talk about them without, like, hurting. But, like, maybe because her death was just so accidental, it wasn't, you know, it was sort of more like the Jeff Buckley death. Just kind of like, wait, what? He just drowned? She fell off of a what? She was looking at the moon and she fell off of a roof? Like, what kind of weirdness is that? You know? Phil Hartman's the main one. I will never get over that. It's weird. Anyways, but I like it. I like it because she is using Sophie's death to illustrate a very beautiful idea that she must have had a beautiful view of the moon while she plunged to her death. That she succeeded in looking at the moon, sort of making it a heroic effort, like that's actually a good way to die. And like, it's too early, right? She should have lived longer, and her music was great, and she's so influential and all that stuff. And she had a family, I'm sure, and all that. And like, that's all that. But you could say that she, you know, like, that's a way to die doing what you love, like looking at the beautiful moon. I get it. At a certain point on the next verse, she talks about somebody looking for America, and it goes on and on and on and on. Don't stop, believe. Yep. That's my next one. You put this song right next to Don't Stop Believin' by Journey, and you will be like, oh my God, there's all these weird similarities between these songs that don't actually sound that similar. I'm making a hell of a playlist for you. Quiet kind of instrumental bit here. Again, the drums become slightly syncopated, almost a little dance hall-like, which I think she's trying to set you up for the reggae in the next song. And I love this chorus, is what I said the first time I listened to it. The second time I heard it, I said what my baby sang. I said, wah, I didn't like the chorus. And the third time I did like the chorus, which makes me say, I don't know, I like the chorus. Cool computer beeps to go out. Then we get to So Many Planets. And then much like my baby downstairs, we are all born screaming. She's screaming now. We're all born screaming. Like, this one is weird because it sort of goes in sort of like a Paul Simon-y, happy, fun, maybe, I guess, Talking Heads as well. African-ish, 80s-ish synth sort of tight groove stuff. Lyrics are really in the center, and just all okay. All right. So this is what happens. I was watching the Liverpool game this morning, and I took notes. And I missed the goal. I only watched the first half out of the game. So I missed the goal that West Ham scored. Because I was typing up these notes. And there's all these typos in here. So I wrote, describe the moment in the befinging of second verse. Befinging, okay? The beginning of the second verse. This is how I tried to describe it on the treadmill. Voice, guitar behind. Straight jacked quote. Drums in hi-hat keeping time. Little fills on drums at the end of the phrase. I think what I was trying to say was that it was super well produced, and you need to pay special close attention to the beginning of the second verse as a microcosm of the brilliance of the production in macrocosm. The lyrics make reference to a karaoke version of the song Hallelujah. I don't hate American Idol or The Voice. Okay, I don't hate competitive singing shows, except for the fact that they always sing songs that take that song out of your mouth. Now, the worst example is Otis Redding's Amen. Just get your mouth out of that song, okay? I don't care if you're a line cook in Santa Clara, and you've been singing, and they said you should join the show, and you're a single mom, and you have 5 kids, and your husband's dead, but his mother lives in the house with you, and you're trying to make ends meet, and you sing the song Amen. Don't sing it. Just don't sing that song. So karaoke version of Hallelujah is beautiful because, Hallelujah. Okay. So I like the Jeff Buckley version. 2 Jeff Buckley references in one video. I do. It's the version, right? The same way that Jimi Hendrix's version of All on the Watchtower is the version. But the Leonard Cohen original is just so goofy. It's so restrained. It doesn't have the emotional punch. So I love the idea of a karaoke version of Hallelujah. Because really, what do we know except for Jeff Buckley's, which is sort of a karaoke version? But it's a nice sort of comparison. It creates an interesting image of something beautiful being done poorly. Fun little weird jams, and you think it's all done, and then it comes back with this full choir, and I guess Kate LeBon's on there, and I guess she's on this album a lot. I don't know who she is because the misogynist thing I was talking about before. Maybe she'll release an album soon, I'll get to do it. It's this pulsating bass. I'm sitting there, I'm listening, I'm just enjoying it so much. Her voice is just all these multiple layers, and I guess Kate LeBon's voice as well. And it has that feeling. I love an album that has the courage to end with the title track. So often people just hide the title track in the middle to be like, well, listen, I'm not saying this whole thing's about this, but it's clear. It's all about this. It's all about the pleasure and pain of life and joy and suffering. It's all together, and enjoy every sandwich, all that stuff. Okay? So, that's my review. I love this album. I do. I really love St. Vincent. And unlike a lot of people I review, I think we can hang out, Go to a museum together. It's cool. Oh, yeah, these are my Patreons. So they give me money so that I can buy music. And I already said the names of the people who want a shout out. So you got a special shout out there. Okay, I'm going to go play with the baby. Sneak off to Record Archive. I have to go to Wegmans. I have to pick up all the groceries. All right. Hey, joy and suffering. There's the camera.